My family hid the truth about my birth for 29 years until a DNA kit exposed everything. It started with a Christmas gag. My younger sister Jenna bought everyone in the family one of those $99 DNA kits from a popular ancestry site. "Let's see how boringly white we are," she laughed, nudging Dad. We'd always joked we were basically descended from mayonnaise. I was 29, a high school counselor living in Boise, single, steady job, nothing dramatic going on. If you had asked me to describe myself back then in 3 words, I probably would have said grounded, loyal, and boring. That last one wasn't a complaint. Boring meant safe. Boring meant predictable. I liked boring. The DNA kit sat on my dresser for 2 months. Then one Sunday, after a solo hike, I spit in the tube, sealed it, and forgot about it. 3 weeks later, the email came. "Your results are ready." I opened the link while waiting for my Uber Eats order. I expected to find something laughably vanilla, 95% Northern European, maybe a dash of Scandinavian. But instead, my screen blinked back. 50% Ashkenazi Jewish, 48% Italian, 2% other. What? That didn't make sense. Our entire family identity was Irish, Scottish, Protestant, generations of it. Dad wore a kilt for his second wedding. Mom made shepherd's pie every Easter. There was no Jewish or Italian history, not even a whisper of it. Confused, I texted Jenna, "Did you get your results?" "Something's weird." 5 minutes later, she called. "Mine says 98% Irish, Scottish, just like we expected." "What do you mean weird?" I didn't answer, because in that moment, staring at the screen, I felt the first edge of a truth I wasn't ready to hold. Something was very, very wrong. For 2 nights, I didn't sleep. I kept refreshing the Ancestry app as if the results would magically change. I messaged their support team. No glitch, no error. My DNA had matched thousands of other people with Jewish and Italian ancestry, but none of them shared my last name. That's when I clicked into the DNA Matches tab. There, at the top, was a name I didn't recognize. Rachel Bernstein. 50% match. Likely half-sibling. My whole body went cold. I thought I was going to pass out. My mind started running wild. Who the hell is Rachel Bernstein? Is this a scam? Did Dad cheat, have another family, or adopt me? I took a screenshot and sent it to Jenna. She didn't respond right away. 3 hours later, she texted, "Dude, what the actual hell? That's not a cousin, that's a half-sibling." I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to ask my mom. I didn't want to ask my dad. I didn't want to ask anyone. I wanted to throw my phone into a river and go back to pretending I was just another girl with bad allergies and boring parents. But the question was already awake, and you can't unask it. I didn't reach out to Rachel. I couldn't. The idea made me physically nauseous. But Rachel, she reached out to me. 3 days later, I got an email through the app. Simple, calm, almost too calm. "Hi, I saw you matched as a 50% sibling. I know this can be weird. I'm not looking to disrupt anything. I just have questions too. My mom used a donor in the early 90s in New York. Do you know anything about that?" A donor. Everything in my body flipped, like my organs were suddenly upside down. Donor? What donor? Was she saying my father wasn't my father? I ran to my bathroom mirror and stared at my face like it belonged to someone else. My pale skin, my hazel eyes, the nose I hated, the jaw I shared with no one in my family. How had I never asked why I looked so different? I drove straight to my parents' house. I didn't call first. It was a Sunday. My dad was watching a football game. My mom was chopping vegetables. Normal, domestic, soothingly average. I walked into the kitchen, placed my phone on the counter, and opened the app to show them Rachel's face and that little digital line between us that said, half-sibling. No one spoke for a few seconds. Then Mom exhaled slowly, almost like she had been holding her breath for 29 years. "Okay," she said, "I think it's time you knew." That's when the story spilled out. My parents had struggled to conceive. After 5 years of failed attempts, my dad had been diagnosed with male infertility. No sperm motility. They were devastated, but they were also young, broke, and desperate. IVF was new and expensive, so they did what some couples did in the early 90s. They used an unregulated sperm bank in Manhattan, one with no paper trail, no legal accountability, and apparently no screening. The doctor told them the donor was a medical student, anonymous, Jewish American. They never thought I'd find out. "No one talked about donor kids back then," my mom said quietly, slicing through a carrot like it had wronged her. "We were told to move on, bond with you, forget it ever happened." I stood there in total silence. My entire identity, my surname, my family tree, my sense of self, had been a polite fiction. And the worst part? Everyone else had known but me. I wasn't sure why I agreed to meet her. Rachel suggested a coffee shop halfway between us, somewhere in Oregon, close enough to drive, far enough to breathe. She said she'd be in a red scarf. When I saw her sitting there, hunched over a cappuccino, scarf wrapped too tightly like armor, I froze in the doorway. She looked ordinary, tired, friendly. But what shattered me was her face. Not because she looked exactly like me. She didn't. It was her eyes. My exact eyes. That strange gray-green swirl. That faint upward tilt. The same way they narrowed when confused. She stood up and smiled nervously. "Hi." I sat down. We both stared for a second too long. It felt like looking into a mirror that had lived a parallel life. Rachel was a mom. She worked in nonprofit grant writing. She'd grown up in Brooklyn, raised by a single mother who had never hidden the truth, that she came from a donor, anonymously chosen, never to be known, until now. She'd always been curious, she said, always wanted to know if she had siblings out there. She just hadn't expected me to be so real. I nodded. Neither had I. We talked for 3 hours. We learned that we were both allergic to shellfish. Both bit our nails. Both had terrible eyesight and the same strange dimple under our left eye when we laughed. It was like discovering a lost limb you didn't know you missed until it was sewn back on. When we hugged goodbye, it was cautious, light, but I felt something shift in both of us. Back home, things weren't okay. My parents had tried to move on after our kitchen confrontation, but I couldn't. Suddenly, every photo from childhood looked different. Every Christmas morning, every school play, every tooth fairy visit. None of it had changed, but I had. I wasn't angry that I came from a donor. I was angry that I hadn't been told, that something so fundamental about my identity had been hidden, like it was shameful, like I couldn't be trusted to handle it. Jenna avoided the topic. "You're still my sister," she kept saying, but she said it like she was trying to convince herself. My dad didn't say much at all. One night, I asked him, "Do you ever think about the fact that I'm not biologically yours?" He paused. Then he said, "Every day." And then I remember, "I changed your diapers. I taught you how to ride a bike. I held your hand at your grandmother's funeral. What more makes a father?" I didn't know how to respond. It was the first time I realized this wasn't just my identity breaking, it was his too. Some people search for their roots because they feel incomplete. I didn't feel incomplete. I felt overloaded, like every part of my identity was crashing into the other, fighting for air. But the question still burned. Who was he? The donor. The man whose genes shaped my face, my voice, my cells. Rachel had looked before, gotten nowhere. Back in the 90s, sperm banks weren't legally required to track donor records, and this particular clinic had shut down years ago after a malpractice suit involving swapped samples. Still, I had time, obsession, and a decent memory for patterns. I started small, LinkedIn profiles of Jewish American medical students who graduated in New York between 1988 and 1992. There were hundreds, but I only needed one. I narrowed by age, location, specialty. One profile stopped me cold. Dr. Isaac R. Cohen, MD, now retired, former cardiologist, lived in Stamford, Connecticut, Jewish, graduated from Mount Sinai Medical School in 1991, and, get this, he had a public blog. Mostly boring essays about aging, fishing, and the healthcare system, but buried in one post was a sentence I read 3 times. During med school, I participated in one of those anonymous donor programs to make ends meet. Never thought twice about it. I almost dropped my phone. I ran the image of his face through a facial comparison tool, side by side with mine and Rachel's. 91% similarity. I had found him. I didn't plan to contact him. Honestly, I knew it would be a bad idea. He'd donated anonymously. He had never agreed to be found. And I wasn't sure I could handle rejection from a man who didn't even know I existed. But Rachel? She felt differently. "Why shouldn't we reach out?" she asked on a shaky phone call. He made the decision to donate. We didn't ask to be born. We argued. She wanted to write, I wanted to disappear. Eventually, we compromised. I would write, but not press. Just inform. Give him the choice. The email was short. "Dear Dr. Cohen, I believe I may be your biological daughter. I was conceived via sperm donation in New York in 1992. DNA tests and research led me to your name. I understand this may be a shock. I don't expect anything. I just felt you deserved to know. If you'd like to connect, I'm open. If not, I'll respect your privacy." I sent it, then waited. 3 days. Nothing. 7 days. Still nothing. Then, 2 weeks later, I got a reply. The subject line was blank. The body of the message began like a medical chart, cold, efficient, stripped of emotion. "I was notified of your email. I did donate anonymously during my residency in 1991. I was told anonymity was permanent and never thought any offspring would contact me. I am surprised and frankly unprepared." Then it softened. "That said, I have no intention of denying the science. If DNA brought you to me, then I accept that we share a biological link. I do not wish to cause you harm or confusion. I simply do not know what role, if any, I am capable of playing now." I read it 5 times. Not quite rejection, not quite welcome. Just a man who had moved on with life, only to find it staring back at him through a stranger's email. I stared at his signature block. Isaac R. Cohen, MD, retired, father of 3, grandfather of 5, 3 other kids. They existed out there in the world, living normal lives, possibly unaware their father had once donated genetic material that became me. And I realized this wasn't just my secret anymore. It belonged to people who didn't know they were keeping it. Rachel and I talked about what to do next. She was hopeful. Maybe he'll come around. Maybe we can meet, just once. But I wasn't sure I even wanted that anymore. Every step deeper into this truth made my old life feel further away. My family was still trying to act normal, like nothing had changed. My mom made pot roast. My dad asked if I'd watched the new Ted Lasso. Jenna sent me memes like she used to, but I felt like a stranger at every table. Eventually, Dr. Cohen sent another message. "I've thought about your email. I'm not proud of hiding this chapter of my life, but I did what was legal and common at the time. If you'd like to ask me questions, I can answer a few by email, discreetly, but I ask that you not contact my family. They don't know, and I fear what it might do to them." It was a boundary, but it was also a door, slightly ajar. I asked if he liked music. He said jazz. I told him I played the clarinet in high school. He replied, "So did I." That was the first moment I felt something more than biological. I felt ancestry. I didn't meet Dr. Cohen in person, but over several months we exchanged a dozen quiet emails. Nothing dramatic, no grand reunions, just small things, favorite foods, weird habits, books he loved. We both hated cilantro, both loved Coltrane, both drank black coffee because we couldn't stand milk. He never offered more. I never asked. That was our unspoken contract. Rachel, on the other hand, wanted more. She eventually told me she was going to write to his children. I begged her not to. It's not your story to break, I said. She disagreed. It's our story too. I have a right to know who my family is. We didn't speak for a while after that. I felt like I was holding a grenade, not just of biology, but of identity, and if I pulled the pin, people I didn't even know could be collateral damage. So I waited and hoped she wouldn't go through with it. She did. Dr. Cohen cut off contact the day after. I only knew because his final email to me said, "I wish I could have been more, but some things once said can't be unsaid. Take care." That was it. No signature. Just silence. After that. It's been 2 years. I never heard from Dr. Cohen again. Rachel and I reconnected eventually. Our bond was quieter now, more private, less tethered to hope. We send each other birthday wishes, dog photos, funny memes, things that feel like real sisterhood, built not on answers but on mutual respect. My dad, the one who raised me, asked if I still thought about it. All the time, I said. He nodded. So do I. Then he pulled something from a drawer. It was a photo of me as a baby, curled up in his lap, drooling on his shirt while he tried to read the New York Times. "You picked me up every time I cried," I whispered. He looked at me with watery eyes. And I always will. It hit me then. Truth isn't always a bloodline. Sometimes it's 1,000 little actions stacked across decades. A quiet sacrifice, a morning school run, a bad pun at dinner, a hug that never needs a reason. I was a donor child. I was also his daughter. Both things could be true. And somewhere between them was me.